hands were once used for battle. Now they're but humble tools for peace.
I got some new language for you last time. You guys learned shipping. We're about that now.
Shipping, that's right.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk bromance because everyone thinks that you guys are the best bromance. Like
I heard the word himbo
yes, himbo.
last night, and I learned himbo, not bimbo.
Male himbo.
Oh, himbo. Oh.
But you
Doesn't feel very nice.
Backhanded compliment.
But you do it very well. You do guileless very well, and it's beautiful. So don't take it as a negative.
All right, thank you.
I love it.
I'm here to, laugh at my own expense, your expense,
And I ship
all
that.
of our expenses. And you ship
I
it.
ship
Well,
that.
you're so, let's be honest, you can't look like you do and do the things you do and not have something. Like, it's not fair to the rest of us mortals. So if they make
Oh,
you-
some
they
sort of
give you a
like problem.
himbo.
Yeah, I got plenty.
But what do you guys think makes a good bromance? Because I know you guys have men in your lives that you're very good friends with. So what do you think makes a good dynamic for a bromance?
Well, you can't craft it or cheat it or kind of.
It's actually exactly right.
Works or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And like the same thing, mates with people in high school and primary school, not out of any orchestration or any like these are the boxes you need to tick. It's like
Somehow just
works,
by
you
accident,
know?
it just people get drawn together, and really there's a lot of it's like, can I bear to hang out with this person for long periods? And when you can, and it feels effortless.
And there's
you gotta
a
hold
lot
on.
of risk, and I don't know. So many times you do things, and you hand it off to someone else, and you go. Oh. There's a lot of trust, and like there's a safety I feel working with Taika. Like I can experiment and do all sorts of wacky wrong choices, and I know he's going to take care of me in the edit.
And I feel the same thing about you. I know he'll be very open to doing ideas, and because it's easier to just to try it.
Yeah.
Rather than I go, well, there's no way I'm going to try, because there's some people.
As insane as it is, I'm down. I'm on board.
Yes. I will say this. I think a lot of people, when they find out about all of the aspects of love and thunder, are going to be so pleasantly surprised. So I don't want to spoil that for them. But what would you say is the most surprising aspect about the love that we get to see in this? Because you also told us it's the loviest, and I can confirm it absolutely is. There's love popping off in every direction.
Yeah.
One of the, I don't want to say misdirect, but one of the things we wanted to concentrate on is what love means in the film. I think people come in and there's this idea of love with the classic romance that we're creating that you can see on the poster. But there are also other forms of love, and what the title is, I think, is like one of the most satisfying things for me. Is what it actually means.
There's a beautiful adolescent kind of teenage years romance here, which I think is so cool. I mean, we were all still kids, right? We all, learn the sort of tropes and so on of being adults, and this is how we should act. But deep down, we are still children.
We're still high school kids, just trying to be liked.
I mean, you both look like you're still in high
and
school.
that's where we should be.
So it's not fair. That's just not fair.
Even those little moments that you see between them, you got a girlfriend? And like, oh no.
Yeah, it's like
you
high
never forget your
school
first.
romance
And there's
stuff.
that nervousness that you still get at any age when you meet someone.
Yeah, I'm done trying to be mature.
Oh, I really
boring.
do love that. I love that so much. I will have to say this. The goats, Chris. So legitimately, I don't think people are ready. I know they're not ready for the goats. But what were the goats like? I know that Taika directs from under the camera, so were you the goat?
Oh, you thought I was the
I
guy.
thought it was him. I thought he'd voiced the goats. No, I didn't know.
So how do they do that on set when you're trying to get these goats?
There's no one screaming on set. We've got to
screaming,
make room for the dialogue, so
And it's an entirely CG built character, so we're having to pretend the goat is there. There's no noise, nothing. In fact, I saw a few different edits where the goats didn't really make noise, and then
No, they made more goat noise, like classic
and now they scream, and it was way funnier.
What were they inspired by? Because I've heard people say it was the internet video. I've heard people say it was a hip hop song.
It's a song. I can't remember what the song is. It was some song with that scream in it. It was just and it was, I don't know what the hell it is. It's not that what the Fox says thing, but it felt like seemed like it was a similar thing.
I just want to be in your mind one day where you think that is yes, that goat from the random techno song is what I'm going to make the part of this one. I have to talk about Christian Bale because he's just absolutely incredible in this. And Taika, you talked about just how he really sort of changed what you guys did. in the villain role, but I just have to ask you, with this one in particular, he's almost removed from some of the comedy of it, and he just goes to so many different places. How did you guys find that balance? Because he goes into these very comedic places right after, the motivation for him to be such a villainous person.
We also had ideas of pushing it further with Christian. We were in talks about doing a dance sequence that I thought, oh well, the last thing anyone expects
Did that
is
get
to
shot?
see.
Or was
We
it
never
just a
shot it.
conversation?
Time out.
was-
Wait a minute. There was a dance sequence?
Yeah, it was going to be. He was like, his character was like, I'm winning and I feel good, and I wanted it to feel like like Nick Cage in the desert and Wild at Heart, just like this.
Why
just
did that
moshing
not
out
get
and
shot?
just like dancing by himself, celebrating. And I thought, if anything, I should shoot the whole thing, and I think it would be a cool promo. But like,
You didn't shoot it though?
no, it didn't shoot it.
I'm so I don't know if we can be friends because you didn't give us
I'm
this,
upset that I wasn't involved in the dance. I've acquired quite the catalogue.
He did a
of
dance as well.
sequences.
Wait a
He
minute,
got
you
rid of?
did a dance?
Yep.
Wait a
In
minute.
every
John.
movie I've done. Ghostbusters, Bad Times, The El Royale, Spiderhead.
He did a dance
It's
to,
in me, it's in me.
to Waterloo by ABBA.
Oh my God,
Oh
yes.
yeah, that didn't make it in either.
Yep, on the boat.
I'm going back through
It's
all
like
of
a
his
solo,
movies and picturing
it's a dance
dancing.
solo to
Yeah.
Waterloo.
Na, 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 na.
I do have to ask this because it seems like Disney keeps spinning off anything anyway. So why not give it to you? I'm just kidding. No. What would be a Korg spinoff, and what would you do if we had one? Because I'm legitimately thinking a Korg spinoff has a lot of potential.
I don't know what would be the style of Korg spin-off. I've no
I mean, where would you want him to
Yeah.
go if you were going to let him explore on his own? Where would you want him to be? You don't even have to get a plot. I'm not going to make you pitch, but where would you want him to
We
go?
need his best friend.
He needs his new best friend. He needs his...
It'd be weird.
It'd be weird without you. It'd be weird without you.
I don't want to
It'd
see
be
you
odd.
on screen without me.
It'd be like seeing it, no.
I only reason why I say that is it's been 2 minutes since you've been in something else Disney, you've been in something else. So I literally had to be like, if they give him a spinoff, this is a lot. He's coming for your gig, man. That would be like Korg would have.
They can have it. They can have it. Well deserved.
I love it.
Look into the eyes of the people that you love. Not me. What? Just listening.
I have to talk a little bit about it because we did an interview with them and you weren't here, and we talked to Taika about his pitch to bring you back, and he said she invited me over to a very lovely house. She gave me some water, and we talked about things, and he was very coy and cute about it. But he definitely said that conversation was what brought you back into the MCU. So anything that he said that day that you look back on now, you're like, that's when I knew I was going to do it.
I think just his being the director of this was enough. I was so excited to get to work with him that I think I would have said yes to anything he asked me to do. He's just so creative and is just like an amazing generator of ideas nonstop. It's pretty incredible to get to witness.
Well, the one thing he also said too was that how much input you had on what Jane was able to do in this, and he said that you guys definitely had conversations about how you sculpted her new version of it, because you guys got to play a lot more with where she is in this, because she becomes a superhero. So what did you want to see Jane do? Knowing how you'd played her through the first 3 films, what were the things that you wanted to be able to explore in this film?
I think that it was wonderful to get to play both her human side and her superhero side, because I think that there's this kind of misperception that a feminist character has to be a badass all the time and is just tough and strong and powerful and kicks ass. And I think that to see someone, sometimes be able to do that and also sometimes have weaknesses or faults or, challenges is more what feels like to me to be human. And that feels more feminist to me, that allowing a woman to be all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't know many humans in life that can be always strong.
Yeah.
So it feels much more relatable in that way. And someone that feels like a person to me.
What's so interesting is they're 2 very different characters, but I feel you and Michelle Rodriguez would have a lot to talk about, because when she came back to the Fast and Furious, I'm literally, you're almost quoting exactly what she said. Like when she told me, she was just like, you can't just be that girl all the time, because I'm that girl most of the time, but I'm this other girl the other times too. And that's what she said brought her back. So yeah, I love you guys were able to do that in this one. I will say this though, you got to do something that I'm sure you probably did behind the scenes in the first Thor, because there was all those props Mjolnirs running around, but you got to like pick it up in costume, knowing that it's supposed to like jazz you up with all the power of Thor. So what was it like picking it up the first time as Mighty Thor? Like, what was that moment?
It was incredible to get to have that power, and of course to have Mjolnir do kind of like special things that are specific to Mighty Thor. It felt really exciting and lucky, and really came from the imagination of Taika, and of course Jen, also our co-writer.
The thing I really loved about this one too is like, you see you in this action moment, and maybe some people forgot, but I started with the professional, and so I'm like, no, this is where she began, ladies and gentlemen. She is returning home. And Padme, come on now, let's keep it real. But returning to this action in this one, knowing you'd already worked in this universe where you were so removed from it, you were literally the person being saved a lot of the time, to now being the person saving. How fun was it to really play up the Marvel action and get to do all of the like toys and stunt work?
It was really fun, and it really gave me a renewed respect for what Chris has been doing for so long, because I got to make the earlier Thor movies, but I wasn't really involved in the stunts and the action. I realized like he's been doing all of this extra work that I hadn't gotten to do, which was really like, it felt so lucky to get to experience that, and so fun, and made me really love making these movies. But also was, I realized he's been doing like triple the hours that I had been.
It's a lot more, it's different hours. Because I will say, as a woman in entertainment, when you talked about being in the makeup chair, I really do feel you on that one. I'm like, I could have gotten a doctorate. It's true. It's true. It's so true. I also definitely want to talk to the fact that you got to spend a little time away from the MCU. And it's almost like if you graduate and then you come back to high school, it's like, oh, look what they're doing now. They've done like a whole host of other things. But if you could insert Dr. Jane Foster, also Mighty Thor, into any of the other Avenger movies that you were not a part of, is there anyone that you'd want to like slip in? Because I would go to Wakanda no matter what. Yes. But I get it.
Yes. No, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that it's really extraordinary now to see what a variety of female superheroes there are, which is just so exciting that, young kids can choose which superhero they relate to, not because of their like demographic, like, oh, she's the girl. Yeah. That's the one, I guess, is me. But that there's like all these different personalities and powers and weaknesses, and you can figure out which one you relate to as a human. And that seems pretty extraordinary to be at that point in the universe.
Yeah, I think we're at the age where you can remember like, well, there's the girl in the team up, so I guess that's my person. Or like if you're the black, there's one black person, there's like the Power Ranger effect, as they like to say. So you're right. Totally. The MCU is like completely changed. The other thing that's changed a lot is Thor and Jane. Like even just how they are together in this movie, not just as exes, but as people. They're on vastly different things. But what would you say is an aspect of the Thor-Jane relationship that you got to explore in this one that was fun and new? Because they give you guys a very rom-com like part of it. I mean, it's in the title, Love and Thunder.
I love that kind of like flashback sequence. I mean, without spoiling, it was so fun to kind of imagine what Jane and Thor's relationship had been, with him being like a god and her being on Earth, and what that dynamic is like in a very like day-to-day reality was a stroke of genius of Taika's, I thought, in terms of like, just very funny. Oh,
I loved it so much. And as a rom-com fan, I loved it. That was the minute he said he was inspired by Harlequin romance and Officer and a Gentleman, I was like, tickets bought, sir. Like, I don't even need to think about it anymore. Another thing we did get to talk about in that first interview was Tessa talked about y'all's friendship outside of work. And this is maybe one of the first times you guys have to spend any significant time on screen. But what was it like? Because you guys are front row seats for probably one of the most jaw-dropping and greatest moments in the MCU for two women. So I will just say this. What was it like sitting next to a little work bestie with some popcorn in that moment?
It was so fun. I mean, it was really like the joy of my life to get to work with Tessa in this way. We obviously got to make Annihilation together and then became really good friends and spent a lot of time together working on Time's Up too. And so to get to come onto this set that she also had the experience of Ragnarok and so kind of could like be like, oh, this is how it goes. This is like, this is the vibe. This is what the style is. Our scenes together are my personal favorites in the movie. I just love, yeah. She also, her character is just like, I'm ready for that film. I just want to see like the King Valkyrie.
We've talked about this. We came to the determination of a travel show or farming.
I'm into it. I'm into it. All of it.
Thor, this is my vow. All gods will die.
That seems a bit dangerous.
This ends here and now!
I have to start with this, obviously joining, if I had to choose the two franchises, Thor and Batman are not two bad ones to say I wanted to be a part of, but the two directors, Taika and Chris Nolan, like comparing them and how they're approached, like what would you say would be their biggest similarities and differences?
Similarities in both being brilliant filmmakers, differences in entirely different, but I love both of their approaches. I was privileged enough to be a part of the Dark Knight trilogy, which people consider to be a more realistic approach, you know, heightened reality, but nevertheless a more realistic take. And then the more theatrical and comical take that Taika embraces with Thor Ragnarok and now Thor Love and Thunder as well. But what Taika also does brilliantly is he has wonderful humor, but then it's really surprising how moving this is as well. He's a very sincere man too, and he really brings the comedy and the tragedy out.
Yeah, it's very Shakespearean. You could tell that he was a playwright, just the way that he approaches these characters. And he had a great compliment to play to you. It was just how the reception of your performance when they first started screening it, like how people were resonating with it. And I really think, like, what do you think makes such a sympathetic villain, and how did you try to bring that out? Because again, you gave me my biggest laughs, but also really moved me with your performance.
Oh, thank you very much. And look, all of it is an experiment, you know, and with the right director, you give them tons of choices, and then they edit it and make the choice and direct your character in certain ways that I'm not a part of in that post process. I do hear people saying, there's sympathy. Look, he's still a monster. He's still a butcher. He certainly makes the absolute wrong choice. But yes, you do at least understand where those wrong choices were born.
Yeah, and Tessa and Chris both, I did the first interview that we did for Thor, which, you know, is on our site right now, and it was before tickets even went on sale, and they were just talking about all those choices that you made on set. They were so, like, mesmerized with them. They loved
that's lovely
it.
of them.
But I mean, I really have to say, when did he become a character for you? Because I know you and Taika really discussed what you wanted to bring to this character, and so when did he become real?
Well, I mean, look, first off, absolutely mesmerized by their performances too. You know, these are some very, very talented actors that I was lucky enough to get to join. You know, with Chris and Tessa and Natalie and all the rest of them. But really, it actually comes down to literally a day or two before we start filming, and then as you film as well, you discover things, you work it out, you see what's right, you see what's wrong. You've got to trust the director in that, being prepared to get it very, very wrong in order to get it very right as well. But with the makeup artists, you know, I'd only been able to imagine what I might look like, the body language, etc. But these superb magicians of special effects makeup, Adam and Carla and Emily, who for 4 hours every single day we created Gorr, and they are up there on the screen just as much as I am.
After you've sort of found the character and everything that you had to do with him on script, are you in any way looking forward to, I know, like, the Marvel DC of it? Like, I feel like a lot of people are gonna be coming to you now with, like, both sides of it and, like, trying to be like, all right, so which one do you like better? Or are you gonna try and keep it, I would say, low key?
I'm kind of blissfully ignorant of all of that. I'm in this wonderful, oblivious little bubble where I don't even know half the time what's Marvel and what is DC, so that keeps me innocent.
Remember what I told you. You ever feel lost?
Tessa, I just have to say, I can't wait for other people to see this movie. I got the pleasure to do it last night. And when we last spoke, I talked to you about the dynamic between you and Natalie. I have seen it. It is amazing. But really talk about, like, you guys got to have, I think, like a lot of fun sister moments in this movie. And what was it like filming those together?
So fun, because Natalie and I are like sisters. You know, we worked together in the past and then have done separate work around community building and equity and parity inside of the industry together, and have just become friends over the years. And so to get to channel that into this dynamic was just really, really special.
I feel like you got a wealth of riches because you got to have like girl bestie moments on screen, and then you also got to punch like a god killer and fight Batman, kind of.
I got to do so many things. And then I also, like, there's moments where I feel like I'm like the funny best friend in a rom-com. Like, I have a lot to do. I still have pathos. I have my best rock friend, you know, my cohort. I got my kingdom. Yeah, I'm living large.
And so talk about that, though, particularly, because you're right, you're bathed in riches, as a king should be, right? And a queen, a king should be. But talk about the whole dynamic with, because you guys go at it in the trailer. Like, we can see y'all really fighting it. So what was it like? Because, you know, this is Christian Bale. This is like, you're going to having a stunt session with Batman.
So this is the thing. I had a similar experience on the first Ragnarok, which was fighting opposite someone who I like admire greatly and is a hero. I'd never said this to Christian Bale, but I'm saying it to you. He's like a acting god for me. And then similarly in Thor Ragnarok, it was like Cate Blanchett, and both these people I was, you know, fighting with. So I'm so excited to have a scene with them, but I'm also like, please don't actually like hurt them, you know? So there's this thing of like trying to convey the emotion of like, I want to get you, but also be like, don't stab Christian Bale.
A national treasure,
yeah, a national treasure. Don't stab Cate Blanchett. I remember like having to come behind her with the sword and like, so it's, you know, it's a really exciting moment for me viscerally. But the sweet thing about Christian was he's so fierce and so fantastic, but every time they'd call cut, he'd be like, oh, you're right. He was like so concerned about me, which was so sweet. He's just like a big love, even though he's terrifying and fantastic as this villain. He's just like the most lovable, like shifts in and out of character on a dime. And when he's out of character, he's just like concerned about your well-being and so sweet.
That is so sweet. And you're right, he does go to a lot of places in this role. All of y'all do.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because for a movie that doesn't have to delve as much into the multiverse as, like, say, the last Marvel movie, it does make you start thinking of all the different versions of yourselves that we could maybe get to see. Is there a version of Valkyrie you'd like to see that you haven't got to explore? Because you're right, you also got to play an instant, as I like to say, steal your person moment. Like, let's just say that. Like, you got a very good, like, put it on the trailer rom-com moment in this movie, girl.
No, actually, true.
So yeah, is there any aspects of her you'd like to see in like a multiverse setting?
That's such
like the sober Valkyrie.
Well, no, to be fair, she's pretty sober. She's sober adjacent in this. She really has like one or two drinks tops, and that's after a big battle. She really is like she's on this straight and narrow. And the truth is, even her drinking now is more celebratory. It's not from a place of like pain, which it was in the first one. And I think getting to explore that dynamic is just like a truthful thing that so much of what inspires us is humans, even the things that we think like, oh, that person is so hardworking. Oftentimes it also comes from a place of trauma. We are like trying to overcome the things that have cut us, and that makes us better or worse, right? And sometimes in equal measure. So I really appreciate that you get to do that in the context of superhero movies, because I think it resembles like what we know and understand as humans. I think a multiverse that I am really fascinated to explore with Valkyrie, and we do this a tiny bit just in the suggestion of her, like, for example, wearing a Phantom of the Opera sweatshirt. It's just like her doing things on Earth that she likes to do. Like, I'd love to see Valkyrie just doing like a travel show, you know? Girl. Like, there's a multiverse where she is just like taking a year off, a sabbatical, just to travel around Earth and eat different foods and things.
Oh, I love that so much. Mine was I wanted to see her be one of these like Instagram farmers, like farming things and like telling people about the earth. But I love this travel one even more.
Wait a minute, like a farmer influencer?
Yes, like one of these people that's like, let me show you how I got these vine ripened tomatoes. Like, I can so see that because I follow those a lot.
It's definitely not no. Yeah, I'd love to see her do that. I'd also, this is my personal multiverse heaven. I'd love to see her do some goat farming.
That's, yeah.
Just working with a lot of goats. Maybe she's making goat cheese.
Yes.
Goat. What else do they make with goats?
They can make cheese, they can make goat milk, but just in general, anything dairy with goats. And goats are actually a huge part of farms because they can be like a mule and a trash compactor. Like they're literally like natural farm animals.
See, I just like them. I just like goats for goats. I didn't even know that they're that productive. See, this is what I mean. I get her on a goat farm, and also just thereby get me involved with more goats.
I do love that. Oh yeah, you with goats, that's an Instagram picture. I love that Thor and Valkyrie have both grown throughout these films.
Tremendously. Yeah.
And the fact that they're able to have multi-film arcs is just incredible.
Yeah.
But what's even more interesting is the thing you talk about is what they teach each other.
Yeah.
And what do you think coming into this one, or leaving this one, they've learned from each other? Like, what do you think Valkyrie is pulling from Thor, and what do you think Thor is pulling from Valkyrie?
I think something that Valkyrie is learning from Thor, and something that Thor is learning in the context of this movie, is that even if you have suffered loss or you are afraid of suffering loss, the brave thing is to continue to open your heart. Mm-hmm. And that's something that has been really tough for Valkyrie since she, suffered the loss of her sisters. And I think that something that Thor can learn from Valkyrie is really sticking around. She's been able to do that, even in the times of like, I don't love these meetings, and I don't necessarily love, the paperwork of being a king. She's sticking in there because she loves her people. And I think Thor, a little bit as the prodigal son, has had the ability to just like pop off whenever, his whim, wherever his whim takes him. And I think he's learning, like, actually what you need to do is stick around and be accountable to the people around you, even when it's tough. And what I love about their friendship is also, like, Chris and I, as much as we like joke and love to give each other crap, we're like good friends that have a lot to learn from each other too. And so it's very fun to get to make these films throughout these years and get to really like last night at our premiere, it was so cute to see our parents hung out like for a lot of the night after until very early in the morning chatting. And it was like the sweetest thing where I was like, and we talk in these films about like being family, and then you see like our actual families together talking for a long time, and you're like, oh, it's like not something we just say, it's a real true.
Oh, that just warms my heart.
It warmed my heart. And then also my dad's texting me today, like still talking about how cool Chris's dad is because they hadn't had a chance and they like want to plan a surfing trip. I'm like, this is really cute.
Oh my God, the dad friendship.
I know.
That's Thor 5 right there.
I know, that is Thor 5. Yeah, Thor all in the family.